Uh, the Night That Turned Into a Nightmare by Daryl. Today is December 8th, 2022. Video log. Video number 8. So, I want to rewind a little bit for this video. And I've given this a lot of thought. In fact, days even. Contemplating whether or not I wanted to share this moment with anybody. And that until now, there's not a single other person who knows of it other than the 4 other individuals that were involved the night that it happened. I would like to take you back to a camping trip which happened a few years ago. A camping trip to the Moose River Plains. A trip that was made with Melanie, my son Kyle, myself, Mark Maddox, and his son Sean, at the time a teenager, at the time my son, 10 years-ish old. I would have to look at the video to know the exact year, to know the exact age. I didn't do that. Today I'm going to just go with a memory, and I'm going to leave it at that. We went camping on a trip to the Moose River Plains one day. You know, a camping trip which start like many, peaceful, talking, chatting, joking, road trip fun. All good. We got there late. It was getting dark by the time we were getting to the Moose River Plains. Mark was running low on fuel. I had asked him just simply to pull into a campsite. We could have slept in the vehicle. We could have just simply pitched a tent. And in the morning, we could have gotten up and, moved to a much better campsite. It would have been simple. We drove by many campsites. However, we didn't stop any. We drove entirely through the Moose River Plains from Inlet to Indian Springs. We end up on a paved road where now he's thinking he's going to get a gas station in the middle of the mountains. And late at night, that wasn't going to happen. A place that I'd been to many, many times. I was trying to help the man. So he decides, after he can't find the gas station, that he's going to turn around and now head back to the campsite, to where the campsites are. However, being low on gas, he wasn't sure he was going to make that. But before he was able to make any decisions, flashing lights came on as we were pulled over now on the side of the road with 2 police officers behind us. Through some wheeling and dealing at the traffic stop and being pulled off to the side of the road without gas, we were able, with the police department, that a tow truck came and put, a few gallons of gas into Mark's truck, and it was enough for us to, pull back into the Moose River Plains. This time we pulled to a campsite. As I had mentioned before, it would have been easier to have done this. We wouldn't have had to deal with the police and whatever, or the entire time through the traffic stop, it was a miracle, really, that, Mark didn't end up with a DWI as he was drinking, cans of beer and following that by drinking straight out of a bottle of whiskey. So, needless to say, by the time that the police had pulled away and we pulled back into the Moose River Plains, Mark was pretty drunk. Harmless enough, we were able to pull in, we set some stuff up, and we went to sleep. The following morning, we got up, and it was normal day in the Moose River Plains. We're out in the wilderness. Let's enjoy wilderness things. We went and climbed the mountain and went on nature trails and such and so forth, and it wasn't too bad. Come evening time, as we're sitting around the campsite, however, the mood of the whole camping trip began to take a turn as it was discovered that Mark had brought with him an entire huge 20-gallon maybe ish cooler completely full of beer, and that he had several bottles of whiskey, and that he was quite the drinker, I find out. Oh, he was an impressive drinker, he was, as he continued through the evening drinking and as well chasing, occasionally the beers with drinks of whiskey out of the bottle. Well, as the day faded away and nighttime set in, so did the issues, as that there were arguments and heated debates, and we'll just say that Melanie and Mark were not doing very well going into the nighttime. However, Mark's drinking didn't stop. It was agreed upon that perhaps he should be escorted in to go to sleep. Melanie was trying to do such, or to get him motivated to do that, and succeeded. And she got him into the camper. Upon going into the camper, and a moment of silence, then came some yelling and some thumping and banging. At one point, the entire door of the camper just was ejected and flew off into the darkness. At the time that the arguing started as well, I was the only one sitting out by the fires. Kyle had went and got in his tent and laid down. The tent was approximately 4 feet, or 5-ish, right on the side of the camper. Not too far off from that front door, and when I seen the front door fly, of course, I got up. Sean was also awake and moving around. He was outside at the time that the fiasco began. And as I said, seeing the door fly off at the camper, I made a move now to go make sure that the door didn't hit the camper and that my son was still safe. Step 2 was, of course, to see what was going on. And so I head to the tent. Well, en route to the tent, I passed Sean along the way, Mark's son. I was heading to the tent. Sean was headed to the camper. I checked on the tent, and in that time, Sean had made it now into the camper. I heard some more arguing and some more yelling going on. And I heard a struggle. I heard some pretty intense violence going on. So I went into the camper. Walking into the camper was like walking into a horror movie. The entire inside of the camper was a mess. Completely a mess. Stuff thrown everywhere. Things ripped. The door broke right off the hinges. The screen door hanging. When I walk into the camper, I observe Sean, who is laying on his back on what looks to be a bed to the right of the front door when you walk in the camper. As this was kind of a pop-up camper, it was a canvas top. As I walk in, Sean, he's laying on his back on his bed, and on top of him, on top of his chest, with his knee, one pinning down Sean's left arm, the other knee and leg clearly across Sean's chest. Both of Mark's hands are around Sean's neck as he is squeezing and completely in the process now of strangling his son. That's what I walked in the trailer to. Shit you not. You would think from there it would go downhill. I wish I could tell you that were true. It's not. I went in, I was able to immediately knock Mark off balance. He was drunk, that wasn't too hard to do. Sean was able, on the other hand, to slide out from underneath Mark. He was now standing and gasping for air. He was holding his neck, he was holding his head. He didn't look very well. Melanie, seeing that Mark was no longer or that Sean was no longer under Mark, decides that she's going to play diplomat. Oh, Mark, whatever. Or now she approaches Mark. Now, upon approaching Mark, and Mark regaining his balance, as he was quite angry, I would guess. You would have to be angry if you were trying to strangle your son. I don't think that you would be happy doing this. And now that he's been interrupted, I don't reckon that he's any happier, any less, angry. And he wasn't. As Melanie approached him, he did grab Melanie clearly by the back of the hair. He yanked her hair right back. I'm surprised that he didn't yank, the entire fistful of hair that he had in his hand out of her head. That surprised me. It left a huge red mark, as we seen after the event. And he yanked her right back. Well, not only did he yank her back, but he also brought up his other hand to punch her. I was able to intercede yet again. Now, as I grabbed Mark's hand that he was going to swing with and drove it down towards the mattress. And at the same time, I was leaping up onto the bed at the very same time. And yes, I did. Jumped right up on the bed with both of my knees and directly into Mark Maddox's face, knocking him onto his back in a position similar to what he had his son in, breaking his hold with Melanie. And then bringing up my right hand after I had him on that mattress and pinned. And I railed him in the face so hard that for the entire rest of the night I couldn't feel my hand. I also brought my hand up a second time. I was going to smack him with swollen knuckles a second time. I was pulled off by Melanie and Sean, and they're begging me, no, he's drunk, he doesn't mean this, this isn't him, or whatever. Or I want to remind you that all the way through up on that drive, there was mentions of fights and issues, and Melanie was frequently leaving Mark's and going to Dad's, or a different boyfriend or whatever. But that was a really rocky relationship. I mean, that was bad, full of drunken violence and domestic abuse and you name it. But that's what went on, and until it reached a peak, I believe, at that camping trip. I stood outside the rest of that night with a good pole in my hand, stood by the fire. Mark did come out after a little bit. And he looked at me and asked me if the pole that was in my hand was meant for him. And I told him that if he were to approach me, my son, or anybody at all at this campsite, that I was going to break his face. I did tell him that. I also told him when I first spoke to the Rangers and that the first pass that they made by that I intended to report the incident and that there was no doubt, you know, that I wanted to go home. I wanted that trip over, take me back home. He began begging at that time not to turn him in and such, and eventually he fell asleep in the chair. I went and sat next to the tent that night. I didn't sleep. I stayed awake. I watched everybody else wake up in the morning. Throughout the event and through the fight, my son, he did wake up. He did witness that carnage that went down that night. He watched that play out. He was 10 years old. He probably should not have seen that. I don't think he should have seen that. I wish that he wouldn't have seen that. I wish that something that was a magical moment meant to be happy in anybody's life turned into a nightmare. I don't wish that on anybody at all. But it did happen. I did try to keep him safe. I tried to keep everybody at the campsite safe. Mark was a dangerous person. They did end up leaving and packing up. It didn't happen that day. They each begged me. They said it was a domestic issue. It didn't need to go any further. Mark agreed the rest of the trip not to drink, not to be what he was. And I could see that however bad he wanted to keep tipping them cans back. The remainder 2 days we were there, he did respect my wishes. He did not get drunk. He did hold his cool. He also kept his distance from me. And the remainder of the trip worked out. No, it didn't have to go any further than that. This is the relationship that Melanie left when she run back to the house when I was living there in, 2017 before she wanted to pick fights with me there. But this is the exact situation that she went from before coming back to the house. Before coming back. Melanie is just one wicked situation behind another. She doesn't have much remorse for anybody, and she doesn't care for very many people other than herself. It's just how she is. I will stand for anybody. I'll stand in front of a bullet. That's just me. That's how I am. I would do anything for my family. I'd do anything for my father. I would do anything for your family. I used to go swimming and having a good time. I used to go with all kinds of neighborhood kids. They knew that I was down jumping in a creek. They knew that I was jumping off of a tree. They watched the videos. They trusted me with their kids. They knew that they weren't going to drown. They knew that no harm was going to come to them. And through the videos, they watched their children succeed. They watched them go from fails to success. They watched the magic happen. They took part in that magic. I'm able to go down and swim and to have a good time, to jump out of a tree. Do you know of anybody else that would be able to do that? That would be able to go? With various different children. I was trusted to make sure that everybody was safe, and everybody who went swimming, they came home safe. If we went with 5 people came back. If we went with 6 people came back. No fighting. They weren't trying to kill each other at the creek bank. They weren't throwing fists. They were swimming, learning new things. We go camping. We go to learn new things. We don't go camping to have fist fights. We don't go to try to strangle, out each other. That's not what we're going there to do. I have videos all over YouTube that show happiness in any way, shape, or form that I can. If only you took the time to look at them. To show children how to maneuver, to walk. I had a girlfriend. She was an awesome lady. I miss her. I miss her deeply every day. I won't lie. She took care of two beautiful twin boys. When we all met, they couldn't hardly walk. Throughout the relationship, they climbed a mountain, a fire tower. Success well beyond the realm of their 3 or 4 year lives. It was heartwarming. It was touching to see these things happen. It was magic, magic unlike any other magic. To know that something you were teaching another person was sinking in. Whereas they may have had failures in school, they may not listen to teachers. But that they learned water safety. They learned that they didn't want to drown, that they wanted to enjoy and have fun, and that they kept each other safe. They looked after each other. That's what we did. We didn't leave anybody out to dry. We didn't put anybody under a bus. I wasn't a bad man. I'm not a bad man. I loved my father. I loved my family. I know that the man loved me. I'd do anything for him. I never asked for anything. I would take them children swimming. I wouldn't ask for money. I wouldn't ask for food. I'd stop at the store, pick them up something to drink, a bag of chips. Have a snack, have a picnic, swim. Enjoy. That's it. Simple. Didn't cost a dime to go do. Loved every minute of it. Because all I ever did was try to help people. To help them to succeed. I only want you to succeed. To be the best that you can. You are all awesome. And I really appreciate anybody who's watched this video. And that I really need to take a moment. And I will talk to you a little bit later.